How can a president be siding if there are two people quarreling? You see a godfather and a godson. If they are quarreling, who should mediate? It's not the president. He called them, then told all of them to withdraw their papers. Fubara obeyed. The other people didn't obey. Then they carried their paper and started pursuing it through the judiciary, through the courts, till it rose up to the Supreme Court. Now, what happens? Was that fair? Was that fair at all? And then look at it, you've damaged the democratic structures in Rivers for the next 6 months. Well, I don't know whether we have to make it, it's not a matter of opinion. It is unconstitutional because you don't have that power to remove an elected governor of a state. No way. No way. And because it was a planned script, then they now went to bust a pipe. And Fubara said that that pipe that was bust was by the other group, not the Jaws. So nobody should be thinking of the Jaws that bust that. So they use that as a lame excuse to say, oh, let's break down of law and order. Let's declare emergency. Then meanwhile, you're declaring emergency. How do you declare emergency when you didn't pass it through the House? The House didn't even approve of it because the president doesn't even have the power by himself to do it. You have to present it to the House, and the House must approve. The House didn't approve. Then you want to make an announcement. You are acting illegally, unconstitutionally. The action itself is unconstitutional. But you see, here, impunity rides so high in Nigeria. So anybody just think that, oh, because you're president or because you think you're governor, you do anything you like.
That FCT minister, so that political power is there also. But now, by the proclamation of the president, Siminalayi Fubara has lost momentarily his political power. There are those who will be thinking on Siminalayi Fubara's camp that you've taken power from one side of the divide and one other party has its power retained. Is that balance? Is that fair?
And that's a very, very good question. And that's why I said that the political work behind the scenes still has to happen. And people are going to raise this question. And again, it will fall on the president to show balance and show fairness. He has to step back and really be the father of the nation at this point in time. He has taken a position which he says that this is for the good of the people. But then there are political actors on both sides that have not been acting on the good of the people. Now, is the president willing to diffuse that balance? And one of the suggestions that you've made might be to say that, you know what, everybody who is a political actor within the federal level should step down. Everybody who is a political actor within the state level should step down. Let's bring everybody back to status quo and let's start building up from there. Very hard decisions have to be taken by the president on the political side. What he has done on the side of the administrative side, state of emergency, is a very tough decision on that side. But the decision politically has not yet been taken in the way that is going to resolve this crisis. And until that is done, I'm afraid that this war continues.
When the president, Mr. Cole, says that I've spoken to both sides of the divide and I've tried to intervene personally, but they've ignored me. Is it not an indictment? Let's assume that on one part, he doesn't have power over the governor. But what about his political appointee? And I was trying to ask you that question. What does this mean? If the president said, Minister Nyesom Wike ignored me, Siminalayi Fubara ignored me.
Well, I don't. So if that's the case, then both parties ought to be punished. But I don't think that the president said that. If I heard him right, I may be wrong. I may have to look at it again. But if I heard him right, I believe he said that the person or the side that was ignoring him was the governor and the governor's team, that he had spoken to them and they ignored him. I believe that that's what I heard. If that is the case, then the question would be that what were the conditions that were put forward that then led him to be ignored? A president is a very powerful force. And if a state governor should choose to ignore a president, then it must mean one of two things. Either the solution that has been brought before the governor is so one-sided and he felt that it is so unfair that there is no point obeying it, or secondly, he felt that he might have felt that he did not address the issue at hand at all. Now, whether to ignore it or to go back to address it would be a different issue. But
Yeah.
If I was the
He said,
president,
Mr. Cole.
Well, first of all, let me welcome representatives of the various opposition groups that are represented here. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, fellow Nigerians, today we are gathered here this morning to convey our grave concerns with challenges that our democratic experience is going through. We are a cross-section of leaders and political stakeholders from across the country. We have come together to address the dangerous and unconstitutional actions taken by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on March the 18th, 2025, to wit, the declaration of state of emergency in Rivers State and the illegal suspension of the democratically elected governor, deputy governor, in the State House of Assembly. This action is not only unlawful, but also a clear subversion of democracy and imposition of autocratic federal control over a duly elected state government. We strongly condemn this development and call on all Nigerians of good conscience to resist this brazen assault on the constitution of our country and the institutions of our democracy. The president's illegal and unconstitutional proclamation was presumably driven by the protracted, insidious political crisis in Rivers State, which culminated in the recent ruling of the Supreme Court. Naturally, we expected all parties to the dispute to follow laid down procedures and in good faith to comply or to promptly implement the judgment of the highest court of the land. We know that despite proactive statements and belligerent attitude of these opponents, Governor Fubara has demonstrated goodwill and appeared disposed to the implementation of the ruling of the Supreme Court. However, rather than rise above the fray, the president yielded to petty favoritism and betrayed the oath that he solemnly swore to before God and man, which was to do, and I quote, do right to all manner of people according to law, without fear or favor, affection, or ill will, and I quote. If President Tinubu had conveniently disguised his true intention in the past, his broadcast to the nation on 18th March 2025 betrayed his bias and fell far below the standard of comportment expected from his exalted office. Now, let's go to the various constitutional violations. Number one, illegal removal of a governor and state assembly. Without any doubt, the Nigerian Constitution does not empower the president to remove an elected governor, deputy governor, or state assembly under any circumstances. The procedure for removing a governor is clearly outlined in Section 188 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, through an impeachment process initiated by the State House of Assembly, not by presidential proclamation or arbitrary pronouncement. Number two, misuse of Section 305 of state of emergency. Section 305 of the Constitution allows the president to declare a state of emergency only in the extreme cases where public safety, national security, or Nigeria's sovereignty is at serious risk. However, it does not grant him the power to suspend elected officials or to demolish democratic structures as he has brazenly done in Rivers State. Furthermore, Section 305(1) states that any proclamation of emergency is subject to the provisions of the Constitution. meaning it cannot override the tenure and removal procedures of a governor. Number 3, failure to meet constitutional requirements for emergency rule. The conditions under Section 3053 for declaring a state of emergency include the following. 1, war or external aggression, breakdown of public order and safety, natural disasters or any other grave emergency threatening Nigeria's corporate existence. None of these conditions exist in the current circumstances in Rivers State. There is no war, no widespread violence, and no breakdown of law and order warranting emergency declaration. Failure to follow due process. Even if an emergency declaration were valid, which it is not, it will still require a 2/3 majority approval of all members of the National Assembly. That is at least 72 senators and 240 members of the House of Representatives. If this approval is not secured, the proclamation must automatically cease to have effect. Number 5, alternative legal avenues were ignored. If the issue was the defection of the Rivers State House of Assembly, the President could have encouraged the National Assembly to intervene under Section 11 of the Constitution. However, even under such an intervention, the governor and deputy governor cannot be removed by any arm of government except through constitutional means, as the proviso to Section 11(4) clearly provides. A manufactured crisis for political control. This state of emergency declaration is not about security. It is about power grabbing and control in Rivers State. The disagreements within Rivers State stem from the defection of 27 assembly members from the PDP to the APC, their loss of seats under constitutional provisions, and the subsequent political maneuvering to undermine the governor's mandate. Rather than allowing the law to take its course, the federal government has engineered a crisis to justify this obviously premeditated, brazenly cynical, and unconstitutional action. We find the federal government excuse of pipeline vandalism quite untenable and even laughable. The security of national infrastructure falls squarely under the responsibilities of federal security agencies and privately contracted security firms. If this issue had to do with breach of security in whatever form, the question that should naturally be asked, who controls the police, the military, and the DSS, the governor or the president? Now, ladies and gentlemen, our demand and call to action. Number 1, immediate reversal. We call on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to immediately revoke this unconstitutional proclamation and reinstate the elected governor, deputy governor, and state assembly of Rivers State. 2, National Assembly reduction. We call on patriotic senators and representatives to vote against this illegal action when it comes before them for approval. The National Assembly must stand on the right side of history and not allow itself to be used to legitimize an unconstitutional power grab. 3, judicial intervention. We urge the judiciary to act swiftly in striking down this proclamation, as it sets a dangerous precedent that could be used to arbitrarily remove any governor in the future. I am very happy to read the ruling of a judge in Rivers State which directed a status quo. Number 4, Nigerians must defend democracy. It's not only the responsibility of the opposition to defend democracy. It's the responsibility of all Nigerians, all of you, to defend democracy. Otherwise, there won't be a Nigeria. We call on all civil society organizations, political groups, and Nigerians of good conscience to stand firm in the defense of this democracy that we all have toiled to build. Rivers State is not a conquered territory, and Nigeria is not a dictatorship requiring the replacement of an elected governor with a military administrator. We recall that even when a previous administration had declared a state of administration in parts of the country bedeviled by insurgency and acts of terrorism, the governors of the concerned states were not removed from office, as this administration has done. This action by Tinubu, therefore, represents a new law for our country. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the historical unrest in the Niger Delta should not be forgotten so soon. Past administration had made great efforts and sacrifices to restore peace and stability to the Niger Delta, which is critical to the economic health and stability of Nigeria itself. This federal government should not manufacture political crises that could disrupt the fragile stability and return the country to the past that we have all prayed to leave behind for good. We must never allow personal political interests and the desire to hold on to power at all costs to throw the country into unavoidable chaos.
Hello, now welcome back, my people. I'm gonna be back again. So, when I done the year, the team website, okay, they go on for inside PDP now. PDP and SDP members now they don't gather themselves. Now, when they talk about the thing website it happened 3 days ago. Now, no say okay, normally, this person suspend Fubara. Now understand. So, that issue now, PDP members they can't hear that matter. They can't carry the matter go far. Them say if Tinubu no cancel this suspension, this thing it may lead to chaos. What do they mean by saying chaos? They say if Tinubu no cancel the 6 months suspension, where they say okay, give similarly Fubara, or the thing may lead to chaos. Now we see talk. So waiting me again to talk about this matter. We say okay, and I know say normally this issue na issue with between Wiki and similarly Fubara. So this issue is not an issue where we say okay, we just suspend only one person and leave only one person. If you don't suspend people, now 2 persons you suspend because now 2 of them they under government they work. Wiki they work as a minister and similarly they work as a governor. So now 2 of them get issue. So if issue like that is on the ground, just suspend the 2 persons. So it's okay they get issue. Not be say okay, you go suspend one person, remain one person. Me can't be like say okay, you want people one person. It not just mixing like that. So now why PDP and the SDP member and Nigeria leaders now they come out they talk that it's okay if Tinubu no cancel the suspension, this thing it may lead to chaos. So waiting me I get to tell them again it's okay make Tinubu cancel that thing because this thing will be saying do you not just did right at all based on say okay now 2 persons get issue. You understand? So me just cancel now because many persons now it's just youth, Equere youth, them don't divest with themselves again say okay Equere they support Wiki and the support similar. So that thing now you won't cause issue for people of Port Harcourt now. So you better make Tinubu settle this matter on the normal way. Make this issue now, make it no go far. Now with me, I get to tell them about this matter. You will say the hear me now. If you get anything where you say you want to talk about this matter, I beg make you talk on because many persons talk inside this video. Even this person well now they see from my screen. Now say fine now. He don't come out they talk about this matter. Say okay, make the council now. When I take now that don't hear everything in talk. You see this same similar issue. It don't happen when him and Obasanjo they rule Nigeria, but nothing where they do to like the 2 persons where we see they fight during that time because of the Nigeria constitution. Although this thing now, this constitution is something where we say everybody must follow. This constitution is something where we say all the president, both the president and governors must follow because Tinubu is a president and similarly Fubara is a governor. President have no right to remove a sitting governor. So now waiting me I go to talk about this matter. This matter is long share. People talk about this matter. You web say the now just calm down, just make it hear waiting everybody talk. Hear waiting everybody talk and hear waiting the rest of Nigerians talk. Before you go continue to play this video, I beg you not to do be the first time we say they come across our channel. I beg make you like our video, share, and also make you subscribe. Thank you.
And it is true that in those cases the governors were suspended. These suspensions were challenged in the courts, and in 2006 the Supreme Court of Nigeria gave a judgment clearly stating that even though by then Daria had been restored to office, but lashed the Obasanjo administration and said that under no circumstances would the emergency provisions in Section 305 be used to remove any elected official. That is the law. The Supreme Court has spoken. No legislation or constitutional amendment has changed that. So that is the law. No one, no person or authority can remove an elected official, whether governor, deputy governor, or member of the legislature, without going through the due process of law. In the case of governor, via impeachment, and in the case of legislators, through recall. Those are the only ways you can remove an elected person. You cannot tamper with the mandate of the people under Section 305 of the Constitution. The Supreme Court has spoken, and it's very, very clear. What President Tinubu has done is violently unconstitutional and unlawful. And our hope is that the National Assembly will, for once today, this National Assembly, that everyone accuses of being Robert Stark, will at least for once stand with the people of Nigeria. Thank you.